This is Support is Sexy, episode 253, with Pam Perry, founder of Pam Perry PR. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I interview inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and their lessons to help you take your business and your life to the next level and create something sexy. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to have you here. It just would not be the same without you. And today, one of the things that I love about the podcast, there are many things, if I must say so myself, but one of the things that I truly love is the fact that I get to talk to women at all stages of their businesses. So I've talked to people in the startup phase or when they're just launching their business, even speaking to people before they launch their businesses when they're in the pitch phase and getting those experiences. I've spoken to women who are 20 years in the game or even longer and get their experiences as someone who has seen a lot more during that time and getting a sense of how those two time periods in your business, so many things are still the same, which is odd. But then, of course, a lot of things are different. So today I'm excited to have Pam Perry on the show. And Pam is someone who has been in the PR game for 17 years. She has her public relations company, Pam Perry PR. She's also founder of Ministry Marketing Solutions. So she has those two companies, but she's been doing it now for 17 years and shares with us all of the wisdom that she's gained during that time. So Pam has a lot of advice and tips in this episode for how to get yourself and your business media ready. So in this episode, what Pam shares is smart advice for networking offline, how to foster authentic connections, ways to pay it forward, also ways that social media may intimidate us that we might not be aware of, why people aren't buying your products, they're buying you and your story, why you shouldn't shy away from failures, the importance of learning all you can about the industry that you're interested in. That includes joining organizations, connecting with mentors. A lot of us say we want to enter a certain industry and then we know nothing about the industry, which is okay to start, but then you need to fully dive in. In fact, I have heard other people say this, and I'm this kind of person. I become obsessed with that industry, whatever I'm interested in, that industry, that task, that business. Right now, I'm obsessed with podcasting. How can I be the best that I can be at podcasting? I'm also obsessed with online businesses. What's the best way for me to set up the kind of online business that I want? So not wanting to be like anyone else, but you get obsessed or in your own way, be immersed in whatever industry that you're interested in so that you can find out as much about it as you like and model the success of other people who you feel are doing it well. Pam also talks about the 3 must-do media tips for every entrepreneur, the one thing that you must have to be media ready, and how to utilize collaborations to expand your brand. So again, lots of great tips in this episode, tons of resources. Please go to supportissexypodcast.com and just search Pam, P-A-M, and her show notes page will pop up with all of the resources and the links there so you can see all of the tools that she mentioned and ways to get in touch with her. All right, so now without further ado, Pam Perry. So Pam, thank you so much for joining us for an episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to chat with you.
Oh, thank you, Elayne. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. So first question, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
Oh, Elayne, I think I fell in love with entrepreneurship when I had my first job. I was so excited. I was like, you know what? I'm just 16. Actually, I was 15 and I got a working permit. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go and work and I'm going to make a lot of money and this is going to be great.
What was your job?
I was a legal secretary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Horrible typist. Just is still in high school thinking that, I'm a part-time legal secretary and I can do this. This is way before they actually had electric typewriters as well. So anyway, dating myself. So I said, you know what, I'm going to do really, really good. And I was horrible. I was really, really horrible. But what I really thought is that I'd like to be the people that run this place. That's what I thought. I said, I really want to run this place. And so I got fired from that job. They're really nice about it. Says, I think you'd really be better at something else. So actually, I left being, quote unquote, working for someone, being an administrative assistant. And my next job I got in at that point was in sales. I was in retail sales. Loved it. Loved connecting with people. Loved selling. Loved really just talking to people and getting them to buy. And I think as an entrepreneur, you know that you don't make anything happen unless you sell. And so I really fell in love with selling and really getting people motivated to buy. And that's really where it started. From that point, I wasn't really sure what type of entrepreneur I was going to be. But I just knew that my career, from that point, I got jobs, had no problem getting jobs. But I don't know if anyone has this thing happen, but I got fired from a lot of jobs.
Did you? Really? Is it because you lost interest or because you just weren't meant to be there?
I think it's a combination where I think God will sometimes just kind of close the door for you so that you can go into another level. So I got fired from jobs. I had one job where I did nothing but copies all day. Hated it. It was like, oh my God, this
you didn't
is
get
horrible.
Fired from that.
Oh, yes, I did.
Pam,
oh, yes,
I did get fired from that.
Because I had an attitude. I think it was like, sometimes if things don't make sense to me, I don't do them the way that people probably tell me, because I always think that there's a better way, a more efficient way. But anyway, whatever happened, she was like, I got fired from kicking a trash can. Literally kicking a trash can because I was angry. And instead of like really, going the route of, like really telling her off, I kicked a trash can and it was so loud. The whole office turned around. At this time, I'm like 18. Okay. So, I'm really having some issues.
Oh my goodness.
So I kick a trash can and they look at me and say, okay, you're out of here. And at this point I said, you know what? I can probably do this. The thing that I have in my mind, I can do this on my own. So really I started doing things, quote unquote, on the side. I had a job, but even while I was in college, I had a side hustle. People would ask me to write things for them and to edit things for them. And that's how it really started. It wasn't like I said, oh, I want to open up this business, but I basically had skills and talents on my own. And people would ask me in exchange for money, could I do what I love to do? And that's how I really became an entrepreneur, had in love with being an entrepreneur. And again, another period of time, I was fired from a job. And I said, okay, what am I going to do? At this point, I'm grown. I'm living on my own. So I have my own things, car note and things like that to pay for. So this was years ago, because my business now is 17 years old, but this was before I actually started Ministry Marketing Solutions, Pam Perry PR. I actually pulled up some business cards and I said, I'm a freelancer and I do event planning, special events, and from event to event, which is, if you're an entrepreneur, you've got to, go out and make it happen. You've got to sell. So I would sell my services and I would do PR and events. And that's how I really started. This is way before the internet. This is like,
and you actually had to talk to people.
Yeah, you got to go out, meet and greet, right? You got to go meet and greet and shake the bushes, right? You've got to do that. And so I did that. I did things for the NAACP. I did their fundraisers. I did a lot of fundraisers for churches. I did a lot of PR events for nonprofits, and basically I put my services on the market and say, hey, I'll be the extension of your marketing department. I'll be the extension of your PR department. I'll be the extension of your event planning department. And that's really how it got started. I loved it because it was about results. It wasn't really about politics or working in the office. It wasn't about how well you can climb the corporate ladder. It was about results. And that's really what I was about. It's like, I know my skill set. I know what I can do. I'm going to put it to work for you. And we're going to make this thing happen. I'm going to make you money. I'm going to get you PR. I'm going to, get your brand out there so people know who you are. And it was about results. And they didn't really care about, oh my goodness, I think about the jobs I had earlier. They were horrible. It was like a square peg in a round hole.
You're trying to make it work. Woo! Now, what did you study in? Well, first going back a little bit, where did you grow up? Did you grow up in New York?
No. Detroit, Motown.
Detroit. I knew that. I did know that. Yes, I knew that. Now, what was a young Pam like? Obviously, you were entrepreneurial from the beginning and weren't meant to work for somebody. But what were you like as a young girl growing up in Detroit?
Oh, well, I went to Cass Tech as well. So every young girl in Detroit really wanted to be Diana Ross. So we were all like running around trying to be divas, okay?
That's why you kicking trash cans.
Right. We were like, I'm too big for this. I can't do this. So we all were trying to be Diana Ross. I remember the first time, though, Elayne, where I did a fashion show. And I did a fashion show for a debutante that I was in. And you know how debutantes get to do all these type of fashion shows. So I did a fashion show. I wasn't in the fashion show, but I got all my friends that really love fashion, people that were models. I went to the store that I worked for and said, hey, I want to do this fashion show. Can I borrow your clothes? And I want to put on this fashion show at the YMCA. I think we made like $1,000 or whatever. And so I remember at the very end of the show, I came out. I'm not saying, I felt like it was a scene in mahogany. It's like I came out, I had on this dress, and it was like I could twirl around on the stage, and I was like, oh, this is so great. And I was like, success is nothing without what you love.
You're crazy.
I was like, okay, too much drama, Pam, too much Diana Ross, okay? But at that point, I really felt like that's when I really got into event planning and marketing and PR and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, a young Pam was really trying to be like the Diana Ross. And I was so excited. I met her daughter, not Tracy, but Rhonda Ross in New York not too long ago. She's really, really cool. So I told her, I said, I love your mom.
And she's probably like, everyone does.
Right.
I love it. Now, you mentioned when you went to school and you were doing things, sort of a side hustle in school of writing for people and that kind of thing. How did people know that was what you did? Was it because you were studying writing, communications, English? What did you study at that time?
Yeah, I was in actually journalism. I was in journalism school, and the PR was my major. So you're in the journalism school, PR was your major in advertising. So primarily while I was in school, I worked for the school newspaper. I worked for the school radio station. I actually interned at the newspaper, the Detroit Free Press, while I was in school. And then my first job out of school was working for the Detroit Free Press. So I've always been in that realm. And then while I was in church, which is really part of my calling, Ministry Marketing Solutions, I really did a lot of the marketing and things for the church. So if they had plays, if they had special events, they always had special events, they had Women Days, I would help put together the promotions for that, program books and all of that.
Now, would you say for you at that time, of course, it's a different time now with the internet, everybody, can throw up a website. But for you, as you mentioned earlier, of going out and shaking the bushes, if you will, would you say that was the first step in creating your business was, one, deciding to do it, and then I have to go out and get clients? Yes,
because you had to go out and get clients. I mean, literally, it was like walking up and down the street and passing out flyers, the old school way, actually going up and down the street, talking to African-American businesses one-on-one on the need of why they have to advertise in this particular program book, putting the program book together, their ads for them, and putting the program book together with the printer. I mean, it was very grassroots, but I think that training really helped me understand and leverage into the social media digital world that we're into now, because it's still really about just really training and educating people on the reason why they need to do certain things and how to do it with excellence.
So for people now who, for business owners now, those listening who haven't had to do, or who maybe never even considered that part of getting out and networking beyond just going to an event where everyone's there, really, as you had to go out, find the people, connect with them. For people who have only done it online, what kind of advice do you have for how to... Sometimes I think people just need the courage to be able to do it, but what are some tips even for how to introduce yourself, say this is your business, and offer your service? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but...
Yeah, I know. I mean, I just was at a conference yesterday, and Alibaba, I was at a conference, and it's millions of people there. I mean, just millions. And so you have a little badge and that sort of thing, and people kind of ask you, what do you do? But what I find is that if you go to an event to act like a host, and really be that person that is like the connector or the person that is the helpful person. And from really being interested in other people, people will then ask you, once they start talking about themselves for 30 minutes or so, they'll say, so what do you do? and at that point, they have an interest in you because you've made an interest in them.
Right.
And it's really that simple. It is. So when I went to Alibaba, I met some wonderful people, and they had no idea what I did. And I said, so what do you do? And the young lady talked, and she told me what she did. She happened to know a lot of the same people. She went to Michigan State, where my daughter went to school. She's working in advertising. And so at that point, And I just listened. And at that point, I just said, you know what? I said, I could probably help you. And she says, well, what do you do? And I gave her my card and we talked some more. But I just think just really going out and being, I guess maybe that's the journalism training of just acting like a reporter, going out and acting like a reporter, and then really asking the questions just like a reporter would ask. And if you see where there's a way where you can help them or you connect them with someone else that give them that quote unquote support, support is sexy. So it may not be me, but it may be someone else. It's like, you know what, you're trying to get a TV show off the ground, then you need to meet my friend Karen Taylor Bass. She's been doing this forever, whatever, in that space. Or you need to meet this person. They've been doing this. Sophia Nelson, she's been doing that in that space. So it's not necessarily like it's always about you. It's about what the other person is doing and how you can help support them. So that's what I'd say. Networking one-on-one is really about that. I hate people that run up to me and they shove their card in my face and they start telling me about themselves. I just shut down. It's like, whatever.
Because they haven't asked about you, right?
Yeah.
They're not trying to have an authentic connection.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned Karen Taylor Bass. We love Karen.
I love Karen Taylor Bass. Hey, TB.
Exactly. For everyone listening, I'll have a link to her episode 2 on Pam's show notes page. No, but that's so true. And I think you made such a great point about the idea of even if I'm all about this, but even if I can't personally help the person, maybe I know someone who can help the person. Sometimes that's even as powerful, if not more powerful. I've done that even with jobs. If it didn't work out with me, I'll say, I know someone else who might be good. Are you interested in talking to them as well? And people are like, oh, okay.
That is being authentic. And that's one of the first things I tell people. The main thing is that they know their own mission, their own vision, to not realize that they're not in competition with anyone, but to know their own authentic brand and to know what platform they're standing on by themselves alone. That's just them. And once they're really confident in that, it's easy for me to market them, brand them, promote them, because now they know who they are. And that is really, it's their own vision and mission. So I tell them, I said, I'm just your dream pusher, but you have to have your dream. It's your dream. I can't give you your dream. And you can't keep looking around on social media, on everybody's Instagram or Facebook page, trying to get your dream. It's your dream that God dropped in your spirit that you do. Okay. I said, you can get some assistance. You can get some tips. I said, but it has to be authentically birthed from you. And then we can go at the point of really branding your business and creating your platform.
So speaking of that, what do you do in order to help push that dream? What kind of support would you say has really been instrumental for? Well, I know every client is different, but what would you say are some key things that you help your clients do?
Well, one thing, I want them to just really develop their own brand purpose. What it is that makes them distinct, and then from there they develop a brand personality. And I have them describe their brand personality in a blank sheet of paper in terms of who they are, what they stand for. I even had one client that says, write down all the, what I call life events in your life, some of the things that have happened to you. And so when she wrote them down and she looked at it, she says, oh my God, this is a story. I said, yeah, it's your story. Mm-hmm. That's your story. That's your brand story.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't have to be dramatic, but she was homeless and she was, she had certain things go on. She, then she got a job. She works on a PhD. Now she's, so I said, that's your story. That's your brand story. That's authentically you. No one else can take that from you. That's where we're going to start. And then I said, from that, what is your brand promise? What is it that is going to connect prospects to you? Because it's all about business. What is it going to connect prospects to you that will evoke some kind of emotion that they say, okay, this person has my solution, because people pay for solutions. So what is it about that? So they kind of go back and they think about it. I think social media, Elayne, has made people so intimidated because they see everybody living, quote unquote, so large, so big. Everything is so visual. And they say, well, I don't have that. I don't have that. I said, but what you do have, you make the most of it. Don't worry about anyone else's lane. Think about your own lane. Just look at what you're doing. And then let's work on that and develop that. And so after that, I said, then we can get into the whole website thing. Then we can get into your whole social media and then the blogging and all those other type of things and the networking and the groups I think you should join and all of that. I said, but let's get the foundation down first, what it is that you want to do, how prospects are going to look at you, what you're promising the prospects, why they should connect with you, and what solution you're offering for them. And then that's it. I said, but your story is never going to change because it's your story. You don't have to think about it. You're just going to say it automatically. It's just going to be, it's just who you are. I said, and that's what people are buying. They're buying authentically who you are. So that's really where I start with people. Then they said, well, I have a book. And I said, they're not buying the book. They're not buying the book. I said, they're buying you. Mm-hmm. They're buying you. Who are you? So that's what really is. And the same thing that, my colleagues and things in PR, we talk about, that they think it's about the products and things. I said, no, it's really about their story first. Then the products come out of that.
I'm so glad you said that. Thank you for sharing. Those are excellent tips. I work with different people, whether they're in media or even I've started working with some entrepreneurs too. And we talk about their brand story and helping them write their brand story. And what I always tell people is funny is that when I start asking questions, being a reporter, asking them questions, just as simple like, who are you? It can sometimes take 45 minutes for us to get to who they are, who they believe that, yes. So it's so interesting that, whether you, as you said, you have people write it out themselves or even asking yourselves those key questions. What are you about or what are you up to and those kind of things. Sometimes we don't even stop to consider that, but that's all part of your story.
Mm-hmm. It is. The failures as well as the successes. And I said that really the failures are the ones that really make you. Mm-hmm. So don't be afraid to say, okay, I failed. I mean, like I told you, I was fired from a lot of jobs, but that really just guided me into the area of, maybe you should work for yourself.
Right.
And also, too, I've had businesses that have failed before. That before I did Ministry Marketing Solutions, which is 17 years old, and then it evolved into Pam Perry PR.com, like PR 2.0. But before that, I had a company, Special Events and Meeting Planners. And I was very young and I didn't know what I was doing. But when you go from event to event and you really don't have, it's like you got to eat in between, okay? So you could do, and so I could never figure out how to get the long-term sales going. So, okay, I do a great event for someone and then they don't hire me until next year because they only do the event once a year. So what do you do in between that? I mean, you don't charge, I didn't charge enough money to live off of it for a year. So then you have to take 2 or 3 months in order to get another event. So special event and meeting planners, that was something that I really, if I were to do something different, I probably would have maybe wrote out a business plan because I didn't know that to do that in my 20s. Mm-hmm. I would have wrote out a business plan and really been a little bit more serious about really getting involved in organizations that have to do with meeting planners, like maybe become a certified meeting planner. That probably would have helped, but I didn't know about it at the time. But now that I do, I tell people who say, I want to plan events. I said, well, you need to be a part of the Certified Meeting Planners Association so that you can actually learn the industry. I always tell people, whatever you want to do, learn the industry.
Right.
Learn it. If it's publishing a book, learn the industry. If it's music, learn the industry. So every industry has its own professional organization. I say, get in it and learn it. And if nothing else, maybe try to be part of the leadership of that organization as well.
And talk to people who have done it. So many times people say, I want to do it differently. Okay, even if you want to do it differently, still talk to someone who has done it. It can save you so much time and money. Do you think?
Yes. I have a lot of mentors. Of mentors, and they are people that keep me on the right path. And I'm thinking, I have one mentor in particular, Marilyn French Hubbard. If I did not have her in my life, I would have lost so much money. It would have taken me years to get to certain levels. I mean, she just opens doors for you. She tells you different ways to do things. It's just, you have to have a mentor that really shows you. It's like, that's a great idea, but what they'll say, but from my experience,
right,
I've learned that. And I take out a notepad and an ink pen. It's like, here we go. Right. From her experience, I'm going to write this down because I don't need to go through that experience. She's already gone through that experience. She's telling me the shortcut. Exactly. And so I just need to just humble myself and listen and do it. And that's really the whole point of really why I started my Pam Perry mentoring program, because I find that everyone needs a mentor because it helps you just shorten that learning curve. And I have George Frazier's another mentor of mine. I love George Frazier. He is like the guru of networking, right? And he just really basically, when you asked me about networking, but he was the one that really said, go into an event and act like a host
I
and
love
just
that.
be quiet. Just be quiet. Just ask questions. Don't go in there throwing your business card at folks. Just relax and then just see who's interesting and go and just ask them questions. And that's what I've learned from him. And it's really paid off because every time then it's fun going to an event. It's fun. And when people say, oh, you've got to go to a conference, it's fun because at this point, it's like, I'm going to meet a whole lot of new people and find out what they're about.
And you're actually helping people, probably, I would imagine, helping a lot of people, because most people feel uncomfortable at these events, especially if you're there by yourself. But if you're that person who's going around and talking to people and asking them questions, it sort of disarms them, breaks the ice, and probably makes most of those people feel more comfortable, which makes you more memorable.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it is. And it's a lot more fun.
Yes. And I think a good point that you mentioned, too, just about having mentors, the fact that you've had your business for 17 years, yet you still have mentors. Just for everyone listening, you should have mentors throughout your career, your business. There is no, oh, I'm at this point now, I don't need it anymore.
No, I always have. And I actually have new mentors, too. So at a certain point in time, and they don't have to be older than me. I have younger mentors, especially since I'm doing the Web 2.0 world. Ramon Ray is a mentor of mine and a colleague and a mentor where we work together. He has a magazine called Smart Hustle Magazine. So he mentors me. He has a Smart Biz Technology magazine. I mean, I look at him and I'm like, wow, and he's younger than me. But the way he does things online is just amazing. I really, really love it. So you're never too old to learn and you are never too quote unquote arrive to learn. You can always learn from someone else. And that's really the best place to be, because if you feel like you've arrived, you're on your way down.
Exactly. You're about to leave. Exactly. So what would you say are 3 of your tips then for people who may not be able to at this time bring on an agency or something like that, but they're maybe a small business or solopreneur and they want to get press for their business? What suggestions do you have for those listening who might be in that place? Are there any must-dos to put in place?
I would say every business is different, but I suggest a lot of my clients to write a book. If you are in business, especially if you're a solopreneur, you are in business doing something that you're expertise in. So I would say write a book. Doesn't have to be a 200, 300-page book. It could be 100 pages or so, but really just showcasing your expertise. So write a book that really just shares your expertise. And it could be an ebook. It doesn't have to be or print on demand book, but a book where you actually have and you can give potential clients. That's really good. Or a booklet. I always tell people my first book was a booklet. It was 115 PR tips on how to brand your ministry. And it was a booklet. And it was something that I wrote in a weekend. It was all in my head. It's things that I know that ministries should do to brand themselves. And I wrote it in a booklet. And I sold like 1,000 of those copies.
And did you sell them? Sorry to interrupt. Did you sell them online or hand to hand?
They were hand to hand at that point. Whenever I spoke at a conference, it was something that when I spoke, I would always have that in the back of the room. And a lot of times I gave them away too. But for the most part, I sold them for like $10. There's a little booklet and people would read it. They carry it with them. And then years later, they remember me and they would hire me. So it was like a lead generator. It really was. So I would say write a booklet. Number 2, start a blog. If you're not blogging, blog. Please blog. I mean, just blog. I can't even, that's just one way, the easiest way to promote yourself. It doesn't have to be written words. It can be a video blog. It can be a podcast blog. Just blog. Okay. And then number 3, if you don't want to write columns, okay, write columns in your, whatever industry you're in, be the person, the go-to person that people will see in your industry writing columns, writing articles and distributing those columns to, if you're African American, to the African American newspapers. I mean, that's just, they're always looking for content. They're more than likely going to be online as well. So people will find you that way. So those are like the main 3. I just, write a book. And then obviously once you write a book, then you'll get probably called on to speak, and then media will probably pick you up, and you can even write a press release about the book, and that can be found. And it's just a really good way to know that you're expert. You're a subject matter expert at that point because you have a book.
Great ideas. Now, for starting with the book, is that something, because I love the booklet idea, especially if it's something that's so focused, like you did 115 PR tips on how to, what was it, to brand your ministry. Yeah, that's brilliant. So if someone has an area, or we all should have an area of focus or one topic or something we want to focus on for a booklet, then just have it printed up and handy for, did you order like a certain number when you did it and just had them available when you went to events and things?
Yeah, I ordered like 250, and then every time I would just order like 250. So I ordered up to like 1,000 of those things, and it was like, wow. And then eventually put it on Amazon.
Right.
Yeah. So then it's the ebook.
Excellent. And then when you mentioned about blogging, do you have any suggestion of that? And I know this varies, but I like to get people's opinion on how often people should blog, because some people feel overwhelmed at the idea of doing, one more thing. But do you have an idea of what you've seen work for your clients?
I would say initially probably 2 or 3 blogs a week. And I say do that for at least maybe 90 days, 2 to 3 blogs a week. And they don't have to be long. They could be 200, 300 words. And you could, if you have a booklet or a book, you could really blog your book. So, but that's a whole nother thing. There is an app called Blog to Book. But I would say at least blog, 2 or 3 times a week. And then after that, then probably once a week will be good. And I would say when you're going to do a blog, to do a WordPress blog where you're actually having it hosted by a hosting company. Don't do a free blog. Don't do Blogspot. Don't do, those free things. Make it a real part of your website where it's actually a professional hosted blog. So WordPress.org, and then picking a template from there.
And then the last idea that you mentioned about the columns, another great idea. I recently was having conversations with people about, because some people say, oh, where should I write? As you said, you can do something that's particular to your audience, if, it's African-American market or a certain professional field. Or also, I was talking to people recently about writing on LinkedIn, not just posting your content, which I do, but actually writing a LinkedIn article. And we're saying how, some people were saying how beneficial that has been for them. So even looking at places like that where you can share your work. I know some people do it on Quora and some other places as well.
I think if you're a speaker, then look at maybe doing a column for Speaker Magazine, or if you are a podcaster, like I said, LinkedIn is really, really good to I love LinkedIn, doing articles. But,
do you?
Yes, I do.
What do you love about it? I'm just really getting
my goodness,
more into checking it regularly, I should say.
Yeah, the response you get from it is just overwhelming. First of all, people who go on LinkedIn, they really aren't playing, so they're very serious. So if you put something up there, it gets more shares and likes from people who are really, really interested in your topic versus Facebook or on your blog where people are just surfing. And LinkedIn, they're really looking for content, something that will instructional that will help them. And so for me, I usually post things that really do. They're looking for information on how to really market better, promote better. And that's writing columns for that are really, I take the same content that I put on my blog, I put it on LinkedIn in an article. And it's amazing. It's like, oh my goodness, the same thing. But it just gets shared more. And people, I think the audience is a little bit more serious. But I really think the Black newspapers, if you're in a community that has an African-American newspaper, and most major cities do, is really approaching the publisher, approaching the editor and say, hey, I'd like to write a column for you. The column will be in the newspaper as well, obviously with a professional headshot, with your tagline at the end of the article, your website, and it's also on their website as well. So you'll get a good backlink to your website by having that column on the website with the African American newspaper. And then even though this is old school, ezinearticles.com or articlecity.com, any of the article websites where you post articles, those are really, really good as well. I have mine on Ezine Articles, and they've been up there for years, but it's recycled content. People come on it all the time, but even though I wrote them a long time ago, people still go to them, and at the very end, that's what the author box, it drives traffic to my website. So when I look at the stats, it's like, oh my God, I wrote that 4 years ago. I'm still getting traffic. And so really ezinearticles.com is a really good place as well.
Okay, I'll make sure. I hadn't heard of that. I'll make sure I have a link to that as well. One thing that you mentioned, it's still on topic, headshots. How
Oh,
important is it? I
oh
try
my
to tell people,
God.
please don't send a selfie as your professional image. You know, if you're
That,
sending it for a
oh,
website post or something like that and that kind of thing. But I always encourage people that I work with, you have to get pictures done. And it's not as expensive as you think. It's worth the
no.
investment.
A good photographer will probably charge you maybe $75 to $100 for this. I mean, it's not expensive, but you need it. If someone invites you on their show or someone
Right.
invites you to speak, they want a professional shot. They want something in high
Yes.
resolution. Um, and because they don't know you personally, they're really looking at determining whether you are a professional or not. So it's like if you send them something that's not professional and they don't know you, they then think less of you because you don't have a professional headshot. It's just something very simple that only costs $75 to $100 to get done.
Right.
And so
They're
you
not going
need
to
to,
give you the benefit of the doubt. That's why I tell people,
right.
like your friend will be
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, that's so cute, but I can see it's a little blurred. They're not doing that.
Mm-mm,
Right.
mm-mm. No, no. And it just sends graphic designers over the edge because it's like, oh my God, this is horrible. And people who are putting together programs for if you're like one of their speakers, it's like, oh my
Right.
goodness, they're messing up their brand at that point.
Right. Got to
Mm.
have professional pictures, everyone. Just had to put that little reminder in there. Thank you,
Yes,
Pam.
yes.
Now, tell us about your VIP contact list and how that supports your clients.
Yeah, my VIP contact list, when people come to me all the time, I want to know how to get out there, how to get out there. So I put together a 5-part series on how to get out there. It goes from soups to nuts in terms of how to get out there. And they listen to this series. It's actually like a teaching series over 5 particular podcasts or MP3s that they hear how to go from beginning to end on how to get out there. And it's really like a step by step of what they need to do. And it's free because I so many things I see when people are doing things wrong. So I said, you know what? This is out of frustration. I usually create products. So I said, let me put something together where people will actually go to pamperrypr.com. They don't go anywhere else. Just get those 5 MP3s on how to get out there, what they need to do. Some of it does include a headshot. Some of it does include like putting together a blog. And then just like where and how, that's where people say, well, I don't know how to do it or where to do it. I give them tips of like maybe going to fiverr.com or if they want to go and, list themselves on like blackspeakers.com. I give them a lot of tips on how to get out there quickly, fast, so that they can, I give them tips on like there's a website called brandyourself.com where if they don't have a website, at least start there. So it's really a good thing of where to start. Or if they've already branded themselves, just listen to see if they've done everything right. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times I find that people will say, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know my YouTube channel could have a vanity URL, or I didn't know I needed to put HTTP in front of my website if I'm going on YouTube. I say, yep, if you want it to be blue and want people to click it, you got to do that. So it's really just very practical information on how to get out there.
And this is on, everyone, of course, I'll have a link, but pamperrypr.com, and it's where you say, I want access, right?
Yes,
the pink
exactly.
button. Okay.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. I love it. Mm-hmm. So what would you say, Pam, entrepreneurship has taught you about yourself as a woman?
I would say it's really taught you how to rely on yourself and to don't wait for opportunities, but to create them. It really is. If you want to eat, you've got to go and kill the bear, right? So you've got to make it happen for yourself. And so I think being an entrepreneur, the difference of maybe working for someone where they don't really respect or understand your creativity or they just want to keep you in a box. Entrepreneurship has really just, I think for me, unleashed all the creativity that I have. The sky's the limit in terms of what I feel, not what, quote unquote, a job has put for me. So I think when you are an entrepreneur, you have access to really make it whatever you want. Make it the lifestyle you want, make it the business you want, work with the clients you want. It's risk. It is risk because you are creating it yourself. You're not depending on a paycheck every 2 weeks, but it is a lifestyle that you want, that you choose, that you create with your own hands. So I think when I say creativity, I don't mean like art or that sort of thing, but you're creating it yourself from a blank sheet of paper. So you really look at it, it's like, okay, I dream, I plan, and I activate. And that's a great feeling to know that something that was once a dream that you're bringing to fruition. It's just a really, really, really good feeling.
Mm-hmm. What would you say for you, having had your business for almost 2 decades now, what has been the key to your staying power?
Faith. Faith. You've got to have prayer. You've got to have the faith. You've got to believe in God, something bigger than you. There have been times where, I talk with entrepreneur friends. Sometimes it says, every day I want to quit. Every day I want to quit. It says, but God reminds me, that I have a hope in the future. And it's like, that's true. You've got to go back to the promises of God of like, this is my promise to God that He's got my back. And so no matter how hard it gets or what happens, you depend on God, not people. So you can have a client that's been your client for 5 years. All of a sudden they may send you an email and say, hey, we're going another direction.
Right.
And it's like, you cannot fall apart. You've got to know that God got you. Just like He sent you that one client, He'll send you another client. And so it's just really just having that faith step by step. And you hear that Martin Luther King talks about a thing. He says, just enough faith. You just need enough light for the step you're on, but you just need enough faith to go from level to level. You can't see the big picture all the way down. You just have to believe that you're going to be okay at the end.
And you have to have faith, certainly, and trust yourself. I think that's something I've been talking to a lot of women about, too. This idea of we feel something in ourselves, our intuition, and then we go against that as opposed to really trusting ourselves.
Yeah, that makes you schizophrenic. I mean, you don't have the confidence in yourself. I mean, where's the integrity of what you believe? That's where it starts. If you don't believe it, then how are you going to convince a client? So it starts with you, and it really does. I mean, at that point, it does. It'll make you double-minded. So you cannot have that. You've got to be strong in what you believe about yourself and do the work. I mean, you've got to know that, hey, I'm going to do the work, and it's going to work out.
How have, if at all, partnerships played a role for you in your business too over the years? Because I know that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs have been speaking more about these days, or at least the ones I speak to. I can't speak for everybody, obviously. The ones I speak to, people are collaborating a lot more instead of, this is my business and I'm competitive with this person. It's sort of like, well, we have services that'll complement each other. Have you found that lately or even along your journey?
Oh, yeah. That's how I run my business, basically. I have a lot of strategic partners. One is a videographer, one is a graphic designer. I did a webinar with a friend of mine. She has a business, Sister CEO. I did something with her. So we have we do events together with different people, with social media branding events, Karen Taylor Bass. We've done events together. We did PR boot camp together. I mean, so everybody has their own niche, I guess you would say, but you could always collaborate to make that pie bigger. And that's what we do. I do that all the time. I've done that my entire time I've been in business. I could not have done this business alone. I collaborate with media a lot. Newspapers, African American newspapers. I collaborate with them. I've worked for a couple of them in terms of doing things for them. And then they, in turn, have done things for me, for my clients, for the newspaper. So, yeah, collaboration is key. I mean, you cannot do it alone. And collaborating with those that are like businesses is really important. I've worked with people who are editors. Those are strategic partners. They may, have a client that they do a book editing for. And then they say, well, Pam, here's someone that I'd like you to work with. So maybe you could promote their book and do the PR for their book or help them with their platform.
Right.
Or that someone says, I have a book idea, then I say, well, you need to work with this editor to make sure that it's quality. So it's back and forth, really making sure that you're partnering with the right people. Now, the thing that can happen is if you partner with the wrong people, it can be a nightmare. So you really have to
be selective.
You really got to make sure that you're partnering with the right people and check them out. Everybody's not who they say they are online. And so you want to look at their longevity, look at their messaging, see how long they've been doing what they're doing, and just check them around and just see, who else knows them and what they say.
What would you say your support network looks like?
I would say it's primarily, I'd say people maybe 10 to 12 years older than me. They have always been there for me from the time I've been in college up until now. They know me. They know my strengths and weaknesses. Like I said, George Frazier's one that definitely, opens doors for me. So, but then also too, I have some younger people as well that keep me on point, keep me on edge as well. It's like, oh, well, this is a new thing that you need to be doing. So it's like, I'll take a listen. It's like, okay. But the older people are the ones that really open the door and say, hey, you need to meet this person. So I have a good mixture in between.
Mm-hmm. So in closing, Pam, if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be and what would you say?
I would say it definitely have to be my husband. So Mark Perry is the one person that's been there the longest, right? Mm-hmm. So I remember meeting him the very first time, and I was telling him my ideas and dreams, and he's the person that's like, you need to do that. Sure, you can do that. And so you just need that person that will hear that crazy idea and say, yeah, you could do that. So I would say he's been the person that has been there, seen the up and down. Like, I have an idea, maybe it's not working, I retool it, he's still there to say, okay, well, you need to do that. Or he's a person that says, hey, you need to go to that conference, or I can see you speaking there next year, you need to go for it. I mean, he's that pusher that just like, pushes you, even though his career has been in advertising for the last 25 years as well. He's worked on Ford Motor Company for major big brands. And so he will say to me, he says, we put together a proposal and it's like 1.6 million. I think you need to put together your proposal. You need to raise your prices. He says, I know what people are paying, and you need to really make sure that you're putting in more zeros behind those numbers. So he's the type of person that really helps me keep things in perspective in terms of that. Mm-hmm.
That's great. We all need someone in our life to say, put some more zeros behind that.
Yes.
I love it. So now tell us, Pam, how we can support you. I'll have, of course, as I mentioned, links to your website and social and everything, but tell everyone where to go, what to look out for from you.
Yes, if they go to pamperrypr.com, make sure they get the 5-part series. And if they can, after every one that they listen to, reply back, whether it's help, what they want more of, what they think about it. I read every email. And so if they would listen to, the series, and then at the end of one of them and say, hey, this was really good, tell me more, or this one was really helpful the most, that will help me, because then I know that what I'm doing is on track. So that's how they can support me, because you never want to just put something out there and you're feeling like it's getting no feedback. We love feedback. So that's how they can support me, by going to pamperrypr.com and listening to those 5-part series.
Excellent. Pam, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you, Elayne. This was good. This is good. Support is Sexy is it's hot. It's hot.
Oh, that's right. Thank you so much. Now, before you go, what's a parting piece of advice from you to our listeners about anything?
I would just say, just ask. I always tell people, don't wait for invitation. If you're interested in being on television, being in a magazine, being on a podcast, just ask. Ask people that are in charge, and even if they say, okay, we'd like you to speak, but you're not going to get paid, do it anyway, because they may think that you're so wonderful, the next year they'll ask you to come and be invited, and then they will pay you. So I would just say the main thing is that don't be afraid. Be fearless. Just ask. You'll never know until you ask.
Excellent. Pam Perry, hold on just a second.
Okay.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Pam Perry, chock full of information and good resources in there. Go to supportissexypodcast.com and search Pam, P-A-M, to find out more and to see how to get in touch with her. Also, please do me a favor if you have not already. First of all, thank you to everyone who has already gone and done this. But if you have just 5 minutes or less, please go to supportissexysurvey.com. That's supportissexy, survey.com and fill out a quick survey there, just a few questions for you. It's completely anonymous unless you want to leave your information for me to possibly get back in touch with you via Skype to ask you some more questions. But overall, it's just to give me a sense of what you want. As I say, it's my Help Me Help You survey. What are you looking for? What would be of the most support to you to help you move your business forward? Some of you have been great about emailing me and telling me this, especially when you sign up for our mailing list, which I totally appreciate. But let me know in this survey, if you will, what really would help you. This will give me numbers, give me a sense of what most people say will help them. Of course, everyone's an individual, but give me a sense of what would be most helpful in moving your business, moving your dream, moving you forward in the most powerful way. Support is sexy, survey.com. And before you go, I just want to let you know, today's episode is brought to you by Chic Rebellion Media. So if you're looking for a way to create your unique brand story, and we all have one, a story about ourselves, about our brands, but sometimes we need some support in getting that out of ourselves onto paper and out into the world. So if you go to chicrebellionmedia.com, that's CHIC rebellionmedia.com, you can find out more about how Chic Rebellion is supporting women entrepreneurs, especially getting our voices out there, helping us control the narratives, helping us build our brands and tell our stories. So that's chicrebellionmedia.com. All right. Thank you so much for listening. You know that I appreciate you. And now, until next time, you know what to do. Go out there and create something sexy. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.